Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to start off with the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron, Wendat, and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced their stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. If we can have a moment of silent reflection and then stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Lord, keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Okay, if we can get adoption of the agenda for the January 24th regular council meeting. Deputy Mayor Akpata, support Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That's carried. Any disclosures of community interest? No? Can I get adoption of the minutes from the closed and regular meetings held January 10th, 2023?
Move the minutes.
Councillor Byrne and support Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, all in favor? Okay. Mayor's comments. This past week or so, you may have noticed that the holiday decor has been removed from town facilities, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank our staff for the beautiful holiday display filled with lots of great activities for our families. And I also want to thank the staff who worked really hard to set up and take down the many displays throughout our town. Last week, our 2023 draft budget and business plan was released. And we welcome our residents to join us tomorrow for an open house from 6 to 8 at the Vollmer, where you'll be able to speak with members of council and administration ahead of our budget sessions. We also have a link on our website for Play Speak if you're unable to attend tomorrow due to the weather or scheduling conflicts. Last week, Deputy Mayor Akpana and our CAO joined me at a roundtable discussion in the county with our MP and MPP to discuss challenges our municipality will face in the coming years. It was a very informative session and I think a great start to building a good relationship with upper levels of government. Yesterday was the first of our Mondays with the mayor, and it was great to meet with residents in person to address their questions and concerns. And we have another one scheduled February 27th and March 27th from 9 to 11. But if you're not able to attend during those times, we're able to schedule other appointments to speak in person. And then tomorrow or Thursday, we will continue some orientation sessions with council, and we'll be focused on development and ongoing projects in the municipality. And as stated, we will be holding our budget sessions on February 8th. And that is it for that. So we're going to move on to our public meetings and hearings. And it is item 1, Front Road Fire Hall property. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Baggs.
Thank you, Mayor Milosh and members of council. This report tonight and public meeting presentation deals with the removal of the holding symbol from the Front Road Fire Hall property identified as substation 2. So you'll recall at the last meeting of council, we had a recommendation in favor to discontinue this practice. And so that might be a little bit confusing for council at this moment, but what happened was this application was sort of already in the queue. We were processing it back in November. We circulated a notification to the neighbors on this file in November to solicit public comment and feedback. So this will in effect be the last application where we have a public meeting pursuant to a holding zone symbol removal. So this report and presentation was prepared in conjunction with the fire chief as well as the deputy CAO, who is quarterbacking the detailed design of the building and the site. This project site, as depicted on this slide here, shows the property highlighted in red. The property fronts along Front Road with access on Old Front Road as well. This is the site of the former Centennial Arena, owned by the municipality. And the fire master plan identified this site as the preferred location for substation 2. As you Sorry. Okay, thank you. The property is currently vacant with asphalt ground cover. There is a grassed area to the west of where the existing concrete is. And there's also an existing cell phone tower, communications tower that the municipality has an existing land lease on. And that tower is slated to remain as part of this proposal. Next slide, please. So the property is designated waterfront district in our official plan. This is an area that's targeted in the OP as promoting revitalization. So this proposal is in keeping with the policies and goals of the official plan. The proposal essentially takes an infill site which was previously developed and recognizes the site as an area to be redeveloped for civic uses. So this type of proposed use is a permitted use of the site that's identified on this slide. Next slide, please. The current zoning for the subject site is Waterfront District Zone 2 holding. So emergency services facilities are a permitted use in the W2 zone, and the proposal complies with all other provisions of the W2 zone provisions. As council is aware, the holding symbol cannot be removed until such time as there is adequate servicing capacity to facilitate the proposed development, and the applicant, being the municipality, has entered into a development agreement with the municipality. So we're obviously not going to be entering into an agreement with ourselves, but we can confirm that there is adequate services to sustain and facilitate the proposed development at this location. Next slide, please. So this slide showcases the proposed site plan, which shows a purpose-built state-of-the-art facility. It's roughly 14,000 square feet with associated landscaping and parking. The proposed building has 2 access points off of Front Road and an additional access point off of Old Front Road. The access point off of Old Front will be used primarily by employees to the building as well as visitors. The more northerly access off of Front Road will be used by the emergency vehicles themselves, the fire apparatuses, and the southerly access point is intended, as I understand it from our fire chief, to be used as a bypass egress only exit onto Front Road. So the intention is, when emergency vehicles come into the site off of, say, Old Front Road, if they are to get a call during that time, instead of having to loop through the building, they can just go southerly to the southerly access point and out to address the call as expeditiously as possible. Next slide, please. So this slide showcases a rendering of the proposed site. It gives an idea of the different materials that are intended to be used as part of this building construction. And it shows us generally what the building is intended to look like. I did mention that we circulated the notice back in November. So we gave ample time for the community to provide input or thoughts or comments. We received one call from a resident who's the abutting neighbor to the south. He had some concerns about buffering and landscaping and some proposals for some fencing. So those concerns will be considered as part of the site plan review process that we undertake. Next slide, please. So the proposed recommendation tonight before council is for the report to be received and that council approves the request to remove the holding zone symbol from the above noted lands and directs administration to circulate to the appropriate agencies as part of the site plan approval process and obtain all the necessary permits as it relates to the development. We are asking that based on the information contained within this report and provided there's no additional public comment or feedback that essentially materially impacts the proposal, that the bylaw be considered tonight in the bylaw section of the agenda and that the holding provision be removed and the bylaw be amended as part of tonight's council meeting. And that concludes the presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Beggs. Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Desjardins?
Thank you through you to Ms. Beggs. Just, I'm fine that we're going ahead with it. Do we have any timeframes once the holding zone is removed and the other information comes back from other agencies that we need to clear it?
I'll defer that to Mr. Mara.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. A little bit dive deep will occur on Thursday with respect to the timing of this work. But after today's recommendation, if should council accept it, detailed design will commence and we plan on being out for tender with the project sometime mid to late 2023. By the time this building is completed, we expect occupancy of the building sometime late 2024, early 2025. So that gives you a sense of a bit of the timing to complete the work out here. But certainly we are ready for bringing this forward through detailed design and tendering in a short period.
Councillor Reno?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question for Peter, and it's probably way premature, but is there, do you foresee any changes that have to be made with the traffic lights up on that area? That's that really kind of funky light that has two lights side by side. Is that going to be impacted by this project at all?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. We don't anticipate, this is quite a distance away from international there. I believe it's international where Sir Cedric, so yeah, Sir Cedric's fish and chips is there. But certainly I think this is quite a distance away that it probably won't affect the traffic light itself. There should be ample room here for the emergency services to come in and out of the site. They will obviously be having their sirens and their lights flashing when they are leaving the station under an emergency situation. So they will most likely have traffic yielding to them to let them out into the onto Front Road, but there's no anticipated impacts with respect to that intersection.
Any other questions?
Recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That is carried. Item H1, proposed ice and sports fields rental fee increases.
Good evening, Mayor Malash and members of council. The report before you proposes an increase of 3% to ice and sport field rental fees for the 2023 season. If approved, sport field fees will increase beginning May 1st of this year, and ice fees will increase beginning September 1st of this year. Regular user groups were notified of the proposed increase in an email memo that was sent in November of 2022. Appendix A of the report gives an overview of LaSalle's 2022 fees in comparison to other municipalities in the region. LaSalle's fees fall in the mid to low range compared to others. When factoring in the increase to LaSalle's fees for 2023, even if other municipalities do not raise their fees, LaSalle would remain in the mid to low range. Given that rental rates have not increased since 2019, and in some cases even prior to that, it's recommended that a 3% increase to fees be approved this evening. And that concludes my report. I'm available should there be any questions.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the Finance Department. In support of this fee increase, just so I understand, we've talked about what the rate of inflation is before. Can you just remind me what the rate of inflation that we're working with is now, sir, please?
That was just announced last or earlier this week. I think the end of the year, it's 6.3% rate increase as of December 31st.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
No questions? I have one. I think I saw this already, was we haven't increased the rates in this since 2019. Is that correct? Is that,
Yes, that's correct. We have not increased in some instances even before 2019.
thank you. I think when you consider that and when you look at the chart of where our numbers fall, even with the increase, we stay kind of where we're at. I think it's a fair increase knowing what everyone's going through nowadays with inflation and costs, even for labor. Councillor Reno?
My question for Dale. Dale, I think at one point about 4 or 5 years ago, we talked about the expected raise each year was like 1% or something. So is there a number that these user groups were used to that they've luckily been able to avoid for the last 3 years?
Yeah, there was a number of years where we'd increase approximately 2% per year. That compounded over time. And at one point we were one of the higher user fee rates. So we did take a break. There were some groups that came to council, and I think the decision was made to take a year or two break, and then the pandemic hit and whatnot. But since then, as you can see, many of the neighboring municipalities in the region, their rates have caught up and surpassed ours by quite significantly. So, given today's pressures of inflation and whatnot, I think it's appropriate to start to raise these rates. And, as Ms. Finero mentioned, we've given appropriate notice well in advance of the user group so that the user groups can pass the fees along to their registrants.
Okay, thank you. With that, do you have a recommendation in front of you? Moved. Councillor Richo Spagnolo, support Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? And that carries. Item 2, the indoor pickleball update.
Thank you, Mayor Malash and members of council. This report is seeking approval to charge a drop-in fee of $5 per person per 2-hour time slot to play indoor pickleball at the event center. The report before you contains the details of the program, which is scheduled to begin tomorrow pending approval of the fee this evening. That concludes my report. I'm available if there's any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Richo Spagnolo.
Thank you through you to Ms. Finaro. It's great to see that we are starting this, so that's great news. Just a question, because I did have some feedback on this. Will we be offering, I think I did see it in the report as well, will we be exploring evening sessions to accommodate our workers who enjoy pickleball?
Thank you for the question. We will be exploring, once we get through the initial stages of the 3 days of drop-in, we will be exploring additional hours if there is demand in place and if we are able to staff the additional times appropriately.
Any other questions? No, I think that was the only thing that I had heard as well. I mean, people are excited that we're able to do this, but they were just hoping we'd be able to have evening hours available. So with that, members of council. Councillor
Move the
Richo,
recommendation.
Councillor Burns, support Councillor Richo Spagnolo, all in favor? And that is carried as well. Information items to be received. There are 4 items before you. If there's anything that you want to speak to, otherwise we will move them all. Councillor Reno and support Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? That carries. just bylaws. I think that's all we have left at that point. So we have 3 bylaws. 8760, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8600, the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw. 8761, a bylaw to authorize the boring of 29,050,000 for current expenditure under section 407 of the Municipal Act, and to authorize the temporary boring for works under section 405 of the Municipal Act for the 2023 fiscal year. 8762, a bylaw to levy and collect a portion of the taxes for the year of 2023. And it's all 3 readings. Councillor Desjardins and support to Deputy Mayor Akpada. All in favor? And that carries as well. Any committee matters to discuss this evening? No. Questions and statements by council members? Councillor Reno.
It's kind of a committee matter that I'm not a part of a committee for, but I would like to congratulate Councillor Desjardins for her recent position advancement with IRCA. And I think it's a great opportunity for our municipality and for our residents to get a little closer to IRCA and their inner dealings. So congratulations to Councillor Desjardins.
Yes, congratulations indeed. Any other questions or statements? Notices of motion? No. Okay, so earlier this evening, we had a council met in closed session to discuss 3 matters. The first one, council reviewed applications for appointments to the Court of Revision based on the recommendations from administration. I'm looking for a motion to appoint Eamon Abuzini, Manpreet Brar, Bruce Druffy, Andrew Soulier, and Terry Burns as members of the Court of Revision effective immediately through to the end of term of council being November 14th of 2026. Do we want to do them all at once or separate? Separate? Okay, so Councillor Reno, support Councillor Richo Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Item 2, with respect to with respect to the second item, a proposed acquisition or disposition of the land of located at Malden Laurier. Administration recommended that council approve the town receiving the required frontage on 6875 Malden Road to accommodate the proposed improved Laurier Malden intersection as approved in the current Malden Road Environmental Assessment Addendum and in exchange for the land along side yard of 6875 Malden Road. And that council give the CAO delegated authority for land exchange agreements where either party pays no monetary value for the land. Okay, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Reno, all in favor? That carries. And the last item, with respect to the last matter, administration provided information regarding a proposed acquisition or disposition of land by the town located at Kelly Road, and no further action was taken. And just to receive that. Okay, and Councillor Desjardins and Councillor Burns, all in favor? And that carries. Our confirmatory bylaw, the confirmatory bylaw 8763 be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. Councillor Burns, Councillor Desjardins, all in favor? That is carried as well. Schedule of meetings is attached. Meeting is adjourned.